I'm Trent Alexander-Arnold.
I'm Curtis Jones.
I am Cody Gakpo.
Putting on the Liverpool top for the first time, it was a dream come true, and I'll never forget that moment.
The new LFC 24-25 season Nike home kit is out now.
Buy it today, along with our new goalkeeper kit and training range at your official LFC stores. Online at liverpoolfc.com/store and on the official LFC store app.
You will never walk alone.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become?
Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AEye Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AEye Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AEye Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to AEye Scouted on Anfield Index Pro. I'm Dave Hendrick, joined as always by Mr. Karl Matchett. How are you, sir?
Absolutely magnificent. How are you doing?
Well, you sound a lot better, which is good, because you did not sound well early in the week.
Oh, thank you. I am far further along the line to recovery since then, so that's a good thing.
Well, that is good news. That is good news. Right, Mr. Matchett, today we are going to discuss managers, because there's been a lot of managerial change around Europe and in the Premier League thus far. So let's just go around Europe and then land in England, and we can work from there. So let's start with the Bundesliga. Now, Freiburg have made a change and Union Berlin have made a change, but they're not what people want to listen about. Let's talk about Bayern Munich, who announced in February that Thomas Tuchel would not be taking the job, would not be continuing in the job. Immediately set their eyes on Xabi Alonso and immediately got shot down. They followed that up with interest in Sebastian Hoeneß, in Ruben Amorim, in God knows who else. Eventually worked their way back to trying to rehire Julian Nagelsmann, who they'd sacked just over a year ago. He said no. Then they tried to convince Thomas Tuchel to stay in the job. He said no. And in the end, they've landed on paying Burnley over £10 million to hire Vincent Kompany in what I think is maybe the strangest managerial decision that anybody has made in a few years. So what is your thoughts on Vincent Kompany, recently relegated with Burnley, taking over at one of the biggest clubs in the world?
A favourite term of yours back in the day was failing upwards, and this is a remarkable case of it. I was trying to look for the exact date that Tuchel said that he was leaving Bayern. I couldn't quite find it because obviously he's twice said that that's going to be the case, but I think it was like late in February. So I was having a look, obviously, to see how many games Burnley won since then. It's obviously just 2. One of those was against Sheffield United, who was the only team to finish below them. The other team was Brentford, who were down to 10 men. So obviously, we're laughing and joking because it's been so bad this season, and they are insistent that they've had their eyes on him and it's been well spoken about and all the rest of it. I didn't watch him or his teams when he was at Anderlecht, obviously. I'm told they were fine. Not great, not like earth-shattering or anything of the sort by people who watch the Belgian league. Burnley in the Championship were clearly a cut above, but a good portion of that was naturally due to quite a few players being brought in who were above that level or had dropped down from above that level. I don't doubt that he made them a much better side, but I don't doubt that his methods may be suited to better players, as has been suggested by a few people. But again, very quickly, he was one of these ones who sort of went away from what he was saying very, very early on about having to have a very settled group, about not making too many changes, about it needing like 100 training sessions, I think he said, for his players to absorb his ideas. But then last season went and bought a whole new bunch of players. So that was going to be another 100 training sessions. Well, that's a third of a year. So I'm not really sure that we can draw loads and loads of conclusions from a coach who has had effectively 2 seasons as a top flight coach. And in one of them was routinely battered. And Burnley were dreadful in both penalty boxes for a large portion of last season. They had a better end to the season in terms of their defensive work and in terms of, not being just spanked out of sight in games. Like from the start of March through to the last 3 games in the season, they only lost once. That was a decent stretch which kept them in the hunt to stay in the Premier League if more points had been deducted or whatever. They still only won twice, like I've just said. I don't think that loads of that speaks volumes of immense quality. However, we do have to acknowledge that increasingly, when it comes to playing with very, very good players in a not completely competitive league, man management is going to count for quite a lot. They seem to think that his playing career is going to count for an awful lot of there in terms of putting things on the table, in terms of his time as a captain of the national team, of working under Pep Guardiola and so on and so forth. So whether that really, really, really counts for that much in dressing rooms, I remain sceptical, but I can't prove that that's not the case, obviously. That's just an opinion of mine. I think he's going to need a really fast start next season for the fans to get on board with this. But on the other hand, I think he's going to benefit enormously from the fact that this summer, focus is not going to be on him. It's going to be on Germany. It's going to be on the national team. It's going to be on the entire country hosting the European Championship. So he's a little bit fortunate in that regard, but he will still need to hit the ground running next season. Otherwise, I think there's going to be quite a few turn against him and the wider hierarchy at Bayern.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting is you mentioned the man management thing, and I've read 2 pieces in the last couple of days that have both mentioned how there are quite a few people at Burnley who are quite happy to see the back of him. So, there was rumours throughout the year that company was asked by the ownership to maybe alter the style of play and become a little bit more pragmatic, but that he was putting brand company above the good of the team. That doesn't read well for him. It doesn't make him sound like someone who's got exceptional man management. When they were talking about him in his pre-announcement press conference, Max Eberl said he did exceptionally well. I think he said the word spectacularly at Anderlecht. No, he did not. He was, like you said, fine. They finished 4th and 3rd, miles off the title both years. It's not like the Belgian Pro League is immensely competitive. There's maybe 2 or 3 good teams outside of Anderlecht. There's Union, there's Club Brugge, and there's Genk every so often. But that's it. So, I'm not going to give him a round of applause for finishing above Royal Antwerp one season, because he finished below them the other season. I think it's an enormous reach. I think it's a sign of a club that got desperate. It's everybody. Look, everybody knows he wasn't first choice. Everybody. And eventually, if things go badly for him, the media will jump on the fact that he wasn't first choice. He was a desperation pick. And they will hammer him. But like you said, he is fortunate. He gets sort of the summer to work under the radar, because the microscope will be on Nagelsmann and the German national team and the Euros. But if he doesn't start well next year, there will be absolutely no mercy from the German media, because this is Bayern Munich you're taking over. And we've seen managers go there, win the league and get sacked, because that's the bare minimum. Like, winning the league is the bare minimum at that club. I think it's a great appointment if you're Bayer Leverkusen. If you're Xabi Alonso, you've got to be looking at that and thinking, oh, back-to-back is on here.
Yeah.
Because this is not a manager who's ready to jump in and play at my level.
No, at the very least, he hasn't shown he is. Like I said, we don't know how Company might do with the far, far better players around him, but what he has got is a far better group of players than he had before, but who are past their peak. And that is also a very different thing.
Well, that's the thing. It's not like he's walking into a ready-made Bayern team that has world-class players up and down in their peaks. Like, you've got Manuel Neuer in goal, well past his best. You've got a questionable collective of centre-backs. You've got a great left-back who wants out. I really like Mazraoui. I think he's outstanding. But I think him and Kim are the only parts of that defence I'd want anything to do with if Davies is going to force his way out. Kimmich is well past his best. Goretzka is well past his best. You've got inconsistent wingers. Sané has never quite been the same since the ACL tear. Kingsley Coleman has been inconsistent most of his career because of injuries. Serge Gnabry had that incredible two-year span and has been inconsistent since. Thomas Muller's well past his best. Like, you've got two incredible forwards in Musiala and obviously Harry Kane. And I think you've got two really good pieces in defence in Mazraoui and Kim, if used properly. And everything else for me at Bayern right now is a significant question mark. So I think it's a bigger job than just sort of walking in and clicking your fingers.
Yeah, I mean, look, Bayern, after I just found the original announcement, 21st of February. So after that point, when Tuchel first announced he's going, 9 wins, 8 not wins across all competitions. Like, that's not even remotely close to where Bayern normally are. They would normally be somewhere in the region of 65-70% win rate. Like, that's quite a big gap for him to try and make up for not just a not experienced manager in general, but one who's never had a top club, one who's stepping into what is pretty dysfunctional in terms of the top grouping of the hierarchy. Obviously, you've still got the two big ones at the top in Rummenigge and oh god, completely forgotten out of my head.
Hoeneß?
Yes, Ole Hoeneß, thank you. And then Ebel and Freund underneath in both different sporting director roles. Like that's not really a cohesive structure. Bayern have a long way to go, to be honest, just to get back to where they were before. I'm sure they'll have a go next year in terms of, you know, the Bundesliga title and restructuring the team and all the rest of it. But I tell you what, it's not just Leverkusen. I think Leipzig and Dortmund will probably be looking at that as well and thinking we actually could, if we're really sensible and we get a couple of things right, steal a march to make sure that it's like a 2, 3, maybe 4 horse race next season for quite a lot of the campaign, and maybe stop Bayern for at least a year or two rebuilding straight away.
Exactly. And look, they finished third this past season. It was their worst year in 15 years, which is a long, long time. And they face a tricky couple of years. Right, let's move on to Spain, where a former Bayern Munich manager has been appointed as the new manager of Barcelona. Now, another kind of circus here, Karl, where Xavi announced he was leaving in and around the same time that Tuchel announced, or that it was announced that Tuchel would leave Bayern. Then in April, after a couple of months of, being turned down by clubs, Bayern pretty publicly begged Xavi to reconsider. He did. He agreed to stay, and then they sacked him. And they have announced Hansi Flick as their new manager, who I think is a good manager, did a great job at Bayern, did not do well with the German national team. But just stylistically, Karl, doesn't necessarily seem like the best fit for Barcelona. And if I was Pedri's agent, I'd probably be trying to get him out of there, because that's a player that's had a couple of quite significant injuries because he's been overplayed, and now you're bringing in a manager who's likely to run him into the ground for however long he stays there.
I mean, to be honest, I think anybody going to Barcelona would do exactly the same. It's as we said plenty of times, not the most functional, well set up and thought out club, but certainly not for the long haul. So I think anyone going in there is thinking, I've got to make my mark straight away, basically, and that means playing Pedri, playing Gavi, playing whoever of them, Yamal. They're all going to be basically in the team straight away until that club has a structure in place which says you don't need to do this, and even in some cases don't do this. Unfortunately for them, part of that means that they would have to have a bigger, better squad, and they can't do that because they're still $700 million, gazillion dollars in debt. Some of the decision-making they've made since that first restructuring is truly bizarre. And I'm just talking here in terms of like the playing staff, the salaries that they keep paying out. I just don't care how good a goal scorer he is. When you're that far in debt and you know you need to restructure and you're battling just to register players that you bring in on free transfers, you don't go and pay someone $300,000 a week. It's just ludicrous. It's honestly stupid. So Lewandowski at 35, heading to 36 years of age, linking back up with Hansi Flick is obviously a draw for them, a pull for them, but it doesn't mean it's just going to be replicated what he did. He's like 3-4 years down the line from that now.
Yeah,
you can see game to game he's playing a really different way now. He comes so much deeper. He tries to get involved in the link-up play, and he does it quite well, to be fair. But that's not what you have a Lewandowski for, and he just doesn't obviously have quite the same service, and he doesn't have quite the same legs himself, to be honest, to get in some of the similar positions that he did. So last year he didn't get 20 goals in the league. That was the first time, I think, since his very first year in Germany, if I'm not mistaken, that he didn't manage 20.
I'm Trent Alexander-Arnold.
I'm Curtis Jones.
I am Cody Gakpo.
Putting on the Liverpool top for the first time, it was a dream come true, and I'll never forget that moment.
The new LFC 24-25 season Nike home kit is out now.
Buy it today, along with our new goalkeeper kit and training range at your official LFC stores. Online at liverpoolfc.com/store and on the official LFC store app.
You will never walk alone.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become? Senwa Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, mag boxes and games consoles. Visit libertyshield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
I think a few of them, like, Gary obviously spent quite a long period out injured this year. People like that have still got like really, really long runways, but the ones that they rely on to play nearly every single game, Pau Kubasi, like coming in now, you see he's like 17 years of age and just played basically half a season straight, and now straight into the Euros. And like, would you be stunned if early on next season he suddenly picks himself up another injury? I haven't even looked at Spain in the Olympics this year, because remember last time, 3 years ago in Tokyo, and they took all the Euros squad basically straight away, and then injury straight away afterwards.
And brought Pedri.
Yeah. So, like I said, I haven't had a proper look to see if they are. Hopefully that won't be the case if they are, and maybe it's not a factor anyway, but you can just see with Barcelona in particular, those young players come through, have a decent season or not even season, and suddenly they're everywhere.
Yeah, like Pedri, Gavi, Ansu Fati, all three of them overplayed massively, all three of them injured. Lamine Yamal.
Spain are in the Olympics.
They are. So that means Lamine Yamal and Kubarsi are probably playing in both.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to be a surprise if they break down next year. And that will then be 5 incredible young players that Barcelona and Spain between them have combined to alter their careers at such an early point. Like, there's just no sense to Barcelona. They're overplaying young players. They're overpaying old players. And, like, if you look at their squad, how many of that group would you say are in their prime and are good enough to be part of the next great Barcelona team? Like, there's not many. Ter Stegen's probably a little bit past his prime. Oh, Alejandro Balde. Add him to the list of incredible young players that Barcelona broke by overplaying.
I would go Gavi, Pedri, Koundé. I'd still put Ter Stegen in there. 32, he could be, easily another 4 years. Araujo. Yeah, Araujo for sure. Fermin, I quite like him, but I don't think he's like an elite level player.
Yeah, I like him as well, but I think he's quite a little bit below that elite level. But just in terms of players in their prime, you've probably only really got Christensen, who is probably best as the third centre-back.
I quite liked him back in DM for them this season.
Yeah, he was good there as well.
Yeah, he was really, really good. He was far better than Oriol Romeu, which is maybe the more important note here when we're talking about Barcelona's squad.
This is the thing, like, you can't be taken seriously when you're signing players like that. You've probably got, like, Frankie's in his prime, but he might make more sense as an asset to sell and try and bring some money in. Rafinha's in his prime. Again, he makes more sense as an asset to sell and bring money in. Ilkay Gundogan's past his best. Marcos Alonso's leaving, but he's well past his best. You've got a lot of really talented players there. Like, those young players, Balde, Gavi, Pedri, Fermin, Yamal, Kubarsi, Vitor Roque, I think, has tons of potential. Jules Koundé still quite young. Araujo still, I think he's 24. That would be the core of a great team. Like, Koundé right back, Araujo and Kubarsi centre back, Balde left back. That's potentially a great defence, but you've already broken one of them. Araujo has injury issues of his own, and you're overplaying Kubarsi already. So you're potentially going to ruin that. The midfield needs work, but Pedri and Gavi are two amazing talents, as is Lamine Yamal. Like, you're only really maybe a holding midfielder, one winger and a striker away from a team. And then you could make Vitor Roque the striker or play him on the left. And that could be the bones of your team moving forward. But I said this to you when Barcelona kind of began this pulling the levers, that the best thing they could do for 3 or 4 years was not aim to win the league, just aim to be in the Champions League, get to around the quarter-final stage, not spend tons of money, go out and shop in the lower markets where you're looking for the next Pedri. You know, players that you can bring in for 15 to 20 million and develop. Not worry about trying to win the league. And just rebuild yourself while, most importantly, paying off that enormous debt. And try and get yourself back on a solid financial foothold. And instead what they did was they completely mortgaged the future of the club, basically sold it down the river to buy some good players, but not world-class players, and then overpay the likes of Lewandowski and Gundogan to win a league title last year. And now, 12 months on, you're even worse off than you were 3 years ago, because now your finances look even worse. And apparently one of the reasons that Xavi fell out with the head honchos was that he was in favour of pushing Robert Lewandowski out the door. He didn't want to play him. He didn't want him around. He wanted him to be moved on to save the wages, because he actually cares about the health of the club. And he's gone now. It's just such a circus. But there's so many superbly talented players at that club that, you know, they can build around. And even if they're not going to be starters, like a guy like Mark Casado, like, he could be a good squad player in coverage for the likes of Xavi and Pedri. The same with Unai Hernandez. Like, these are talented lads. They're not starters. Mikael Faye, the young Senegalese centre-back, loads of top clubs are interested in him. He's another one that could be a really good backup centre-back. But they just don't seem to have any sort of long-term plan. And bringing in a Hansi Flick, that's not long-term planning. That's literally just going all in on now. Because for whatever reason, they don't seem to have any point of vision beyond what do we do this season.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't particularly think that Flick, I know obviously he had massive success at Bayern for that 1 year, one sort of calendar year, but I don't particularly see him coming in and just being immediately capable of matching Carlo, capable of, over the course of a year, making this Barcelona group so good that they are back in with a shout at the title. I don't know. I think there's still so much to fix with this Barca squad. And like, again, this summer they're going to be offloading a couple and bringing in a couple and trying to get them registered in time. But they've got to bring the wage load down again. Like, yeah, and they again have to reduce their wage budget this summer. So where that's going to come from, I think they're running out of really, really good options. Obviously, a few players are going to be departing this summer. I think Sergio Roberto might be off this summer. João Felix, they're not, I don't think, going to make permanent, obviously. So there's some scope, but not enormous. Like, two of their highest paid players are two of their oldest players in Gundogan and Lewandowski. So, yeah, like, again, you're probably looking at 1 year fully before you can really take a big chunk and then try and reset. So, again, he's got not lots to plan for 2 years kind of thing. Flick is just going to be this group of players this summer. And next year, probably a different group of players again if he's still there.
The gap between Real and Barca on a football operations standpoint is enormous. And the gap between them on the pitch is enormous. And it's just going to continue to widen. Because Real have done things the right way for the last 4 or 5 years. And they're in a position where they're adding Kylian Mbappe to a squad where they added Jude Bellingham last summer and Tchouaméni the summer before and Camavinga the summer before that. And you're going to be scraping around trying to find your next Oriol Romeu. Or you're going to sell, let's say you sell Rafinha and buy Luis Diaz because for some reason you think that's going to improve you. but it's one out, one in. And personally, I think Rafinha is a better footballer than Diaz, but it's neither here or there. Like, it's not, Luis Diaz is not winning you the league. He's not changing the course of your future. He's going to be he's 27, and you're going to give him probably a big contract if you can get him in the door. It's just bizarre. Let's move on. In Spain, Mallorca still to make a decision. Also soon to have appointed Vicente Moreno. Sevilla, who have been an absolute circus in recent years, they've made an interesting appointment, Karl. Garcia Pimienta, who was a Barca youth coach for some 15 years and took over Las Palmas in the Segunda, took them into La Liga, and then kept them in La Liga last year. I think this is quite an interesting appointment by Sevilla.
I mean, it feels like we've been here before, though, right? Sevilla keep changing their approach, keep changing their head coach's style, let's say. I mean, we went from San Pauli to Mendilibar, we went back to Quique Sanchez Flores. It's been, you describe Barcelona as a circus. I just think Sevilla themselves have lost a lot of identity at the minute. And maybe this is a start again kind of approach, but the squad itself is again one which is very, very mixed up. There's not really been a tremendous strategy there, I don't think, in terms of recruitment over the last couple of years. Didn't end the season in good form at all. Quite a few players, obviously, who are expected to depart this year. People like Eric Lamela leaving, who have been there quite a number of years, even though he didn't play a huge amount. He's been there for quite a while, one of the consistents there. So I don't know. I just think that Sevilla are not as interesting a team as they were a few years ago, and I think that 14th this past season, maybe even that was them stretching to what they were actually playing like, if you know what I mean. It's been back-to-back bottom half finishes in the table now. They're quite a few steps back from where they were.
Yeah, they're a club that feels like they need quite a big cultural reset. The Monchi methods worked there for a long time, and then when they stopped working, he decided he was going to take himself out of the equation. He's obviously gone to Aston Villa, and the club have tried, I think, to continue operating in a similar manner, but again, they weren't working when the fella who did them was there. They're not going to work without him. The Mendilibar thing is one of the funniest things going. Like, he's out of work for over a year, having failed spectacularly in his previous job, gets the Sevilla job just to sort of guide them through to the end of the season, ends up winning the Europa League. They think, oh, well, we'll keep him. And then they sack him 2 months into the new season, and then he sits at home for 4 months. And then Olympiacos, who've already sacked 2 different managers that year, decide, we'll bring him in and get us to the end of the season. Now he's won a second European trophy in 2 seasons, despite having never been a particularly good manager in his career. But it's it's going to be a tough job. They always seem to have huge amounts of debt, despite constantly having bought players and then sold them for profit. They always seem to have spectacular amounts of debt. It's a really dysfunctional club that Monchi seemed to hold together for a long time, almost single-handedly. And the last 2 seasons, even with the Europa League last year, they have just seemed like they're teetering right on the brink of just completely falling apart and getting relegated.
And just to add a couple of context points for Pimienta coming in as manager. First of all, they've given him a 1-year deal. This isn't here's a 3-year plan or something like that, to get ourselves back into the European spots and contention as a competitive team. A 1-year deal. This is almost them saying, you barely deserve to be here. We're not that confident in you anyway, but let's see how it goes. And if certain things are met, then they can extend that for a second year. It's not like a vote of confidence here, is it, to be starting? Secondly, he's coming from Las Palmas, who finished 1 point behind them last season. Las Palmas had just been promoted the season before. He's kept them up, whereas Sevilla are still on a downward trajectory. He finished 1 point difference there. Like, he's rated as a good coach, let's say, who gets a lot out of what he's got to work with. He's just not got very much there to work with at all. Sevilla, I just don't see them as a viable top half or top six side, let's say, at the minute. And it's not a wildly fantastic top six in the.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
I'm Trent Alexander-Arnold.
I'm Curtis Jones.
I am Cody Gakpo.
Putting on the Liverpool top for the first time, it was a dream come true, and I'll never forget that moment.
The new LFC 24-25 season Nike home kit is out now.
Buy it today, along with our new goalkeeper kit and training range at your official LFC stores. Online at liverpoolfc.com/store and on the official LFC store app.
You will never walk alone.